Okay, I'm going to show you just a basic property and how I go through it step by step. So I just went ahead and took the picture on GoILon, the property picture, and saved it. This is a very simple house. Thought it would be great to get started on. Let's see, double check the name here. Yeah, Doris, just one R, Doris May. Just hit enter there. And I always, like I said, I always have the video playing in this next screen right over here, so that way I can look at what I'm drawing. But essentially, the very first thing that I do is insert the background image. So I'll go have to find it here, just where I saved it. I always save it underneath our client folder. Oh, May is May is her last name. Let's see here, May. So I turn on this grid right up here to the largest size. This is what I mean by the grid. It's the background thing. It's not what your snaps are. I'll say snaps if I say that I want you to adjust whether or not you're going to snap it to the grid. But when I say grid, it's this, and it'll determine what your the size of your background grid will be. So the very first thing I do is I scale it, and you see I took the and I try to always have this go straight north. That way I know when I crop the picture out, I know there's a little north arrow thing up here, at least on the GoILon one there is. But this way I just know right away that that's north. Now the drawback is that for some reason GoILon was off a little bit today, so it didn't have the actual crosshair. But you can see if you look very close right there, you can see where the blue line stops. So I'll start down here at the bottom and go right to here, and it's 29.64. And what I was doing was just copying this number right here, either one of these two, but and that'll give me, so now everything should be set to a proper scale here. I should be able to remeasure this line and get basically the same thing here. So if we go up here and we want to double check this line. Oops. All right, now it's snapping to a grid, so I'd have to turn it off here. And I dislike this dot thing significantly because you can't tell exactly where you're going to. I don't know why Service Autopilot likes that so much. You can change your arrow by coming over here to this. You have to make sure that you've got arrow selected, or if there's a border around it. Anyway, you've got all these different types of arrows. This one is my favorite. It's easy, and you can adjust the size of the actual head of the arrow right here by scrolling up and down is the fastest way to do it if you want to. So anyway, yeah, 29 feet 9 inches. You know, that's really close to what it is. So we'll just delete that there. Don't need that in the background. The second thing I do is we'll turn back on the grid, and I always like to have the house going one direction or the other, so either up or down or left or right. Usually up and down is the way I prefer, just kind of habit, but it's really very just kind of up to you and how you do it. So go over here to adjust image, and we can adjust it. And especially when they have gutters, like this house here, you can tell this white line, this outline, those are usually gutters, or what those are. That really makes it easy to be able to line this house up to where it's perfectly square with the grid. Now, the one thing you'll notice is that just because it's square one direction doesn't always mean it's going to be square the next, because if you can tell, the picture for this house wasn't taken directly over it, because on this side over here you can actually see the side of the house all the way down to the bottom. That's actually the wall of the house, and there's the roof and the gutter. But over here you can't see it, so it's actually taken at a slight angle. So what I recommend doing in this case, follow one or the other. Follow either the house, if you can see the house, or follow the roof line. Don't follow the roof here, and then let me show you an example here. Don't follow the roof, and I always like to start on a grid. Don't follow the roof and then come way over here, because that's not going to be correct. That's way wider than what it actually is. So what we'll do is just follow the roof on this instance. Now, it looks like I need to move this out just a little bit. And you can zoom in and zoom out as you need to. Especially for this simple project, it's not that particular. And what's cool is they've added this new feature to where whenever you get in line with the dot that you started with, it'll show you right there. Now, if you notice, my overhang is way out here, but I'm actually drawn on the very border of the roof. So usually what I'll do here, especially on smaller houses like this, more basic homes, there's usually only a 1 foot overlay. So after I'm done doing the roof, I'll hit D to outline it, and I'll come back in by 1 foot and just retrace in this whole thing, that way shrinking the roof line more to probably what it accurately is, and I'll go back and delete that original one. That way now you see my roof overhang line. It's right there. That's really close to where the roof overhang line actually is. Now what we can do is place the whole house. If we want to, we can place it to where it actually is. And if you notice how far it's off compared to what it is, there should be, on these houses, I've done so many of them, I can guarantee you there's 5 feet between here and this fence, and there's 5 feet between here and this fence. So the next thing that I'll do is I'll come in and draw the fence line. Don't worry about where the house is at right now, because again, kind of the same thing. The fence, even though it's not a 2-story house like this is going to be an extreme off because it was at a slight angle. The fence is only going to be slightly off. So again, pick one line, if you can tell on the house, on the fence where it's at, pick where it's at and then draw that there. So don't try to, like, sometimes the picture is so clear that you can actually see the bottom of the fence. So don't trace where the top, where you see kind of it highlighted reflecting off the sun, and then go over here to the bottom. You're going to get an askewed view of the property. So now what we want to do is we can just turn off the background image, and the way I'm doing that, I'm just hitting Control B. B as in boy allows me to turn that off and on very, very quickly. Getting to know your shortcuts is by far the most important thing that you need to get done. So we'll do that here, and Control C and Control V to paste this here. Kind of just want to center this about in the middle, and we can tell that our house is probably off slightly, or our property line is off slightly, because I can guarantee you on this property there is no more than 5 feet between the house and the fence. So we could come in here and just kind of stretch this house out just a little bit, just to make sure we're nice and straight. Now I really love it when the grid is followed, especially if I'm doing the design. If you're doing the design and you don't care that it's a little sloppy, being that you've got multiple layers, like you don't have the grid on and you're just literally tracing the house, and you're just going to kind of draw something. You're going to draw the first story in, and you don't even use, you've got these, this is the way a lot of people's designs look. They're just literally slopping it around as fast as they can. It gets very confusing when you start having all these lines on top of each other. So that's why I like to keep it all the same. That way, if I'm coming in and I need to add another roof line on top of here, it's very easy to just snap to the grid or to trace it. It's going to snap right to it, very easy. And believe it or not, the way I do mine is probably faster than the way a lot of those people do theirs over a long term, unless they just flat out don't care about quality at all. On this particular property, I could not step out into the yard because it was just a total nightmare disaster. I'll kind of show you. Here's a quick video. Let's watch this here. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. You're freezing, aren't you? I'm sorry. Okay. Pergola, patio, just whatever. So, just a mess. She wants to do patio. One thing I want you to notice is that over here there's a utility box, so we need to make sure that we take that into consideration there. Sorry, there's a utility box over here in this corner. We need to make sure we take that into consideration. There's no gate on this side. There's a water spigot right there. This is not a house I would ever recommend spending a decent amount of time on. This needs to be done very, very quickly. Slop together something. Still do a decent, but don't go into too much detail on this property. This homeowner doesn't care. She was looking for a deal right away on the first thing, but I do like to make sure that everybody gets to be heard back to them. I wouldn't even put things in like the hose bib and the electrical outlet, because honestly, even if they do something, they're just going to let it go to crap. I mean, you can tell the way they care about their backyard here. This was a freezing cold day. It was absolutely cold and rainy, and these poor dogs were in up to their ankles, up to their back legs. This is really deep right here, and they had nowhere to go to stay warm. Absolutely nowhere. It was really, really sad. Felt bad. They were really friendly dogs. So anyway, I don't see anything else around the property here. I would come in here and I'll show you how I do the basic design, but let's keep moving here. So that's it. All we really have to do is worry about these 3 windows, and that's it. And just kind of rough them in. Those are probably 3 foot wide and maybe 5 foot tall. Come over here, and I always just use these insert window here, 3 foot. And then it said we can make them around 5 feet tall. It doesn't really matter that much. If you can see from this window here, there's no grids besides this middle rung right there that's going across. If you want to go into that much detail, you can to where it does that. And again, I kind of like to put my windows on the grid itself too, to where they line up with the different things. Then one more right here. And then now we need to put in the door. It was just a regular door. For the doors, I just click all the doors. It just opens them up. And I was just off of that there. So that's really it there. Now we need to, the house is basically done. We could go in here now and go ahead and material the house. It's just a siding. It was 2 stories actually, so we could come back into house here and go 2 stories. There we go. Materials, go over here to siding, horizontal siding, and I just click on that, and beige is fine there. You don't have to worry about the roof too much. I do a lot of times kind of go through with the property line and just usually put that as grass, so you can get it to match the existing lawn there. If we go into here and we change it to wall, we could do that. I don't know if it'll... There we go. That gives us a little border there. And so now if we go through and just pick on the materials, we can just turn in a lawn. a lot of clients, if you make the border too big on the property, they're like, what is that? Are you adding in a border around my property? No, all it is symbolize where their property is at. And this particular yard, we're doing only the backyard, so we don't have to worry about anything with the front or anything like that. And definitely don't waste time on that with this particular property here. Let's go ahead and add in that fence real quick. And it ended right here on the property line. So now I've got a very straight, accurate fence, and I know when I am going to be right there. There we go. And this is going to be a fence. Boards are going to be 6 feet tall. Width-wise, the boards are going to be 4 feet wide, 4 inches wide. Thickness is probably closer to 1 inch. Elevation spacing is 0. And you can see this when we go into 3D here now. So this is the fence here. And you don't need to put in rails. We can take out the rails, the posts, and all we need really is the boards. So there we go. That works right there. So that's really all we need to do. The next thing we need to do is put in that utility box and that little pergola. So I keep in here, and I recommend you keep it somewhere that's easy for you. This is where I store my templated stuff. And templates right here. This has everything that you'll need for the house. The first thing I do is I go in here and I ungroup it. And then check on the elevation. So yeah, this AC should be at 3 inches. This should be at 0. If that's the way it's set, then you're great to go. You'll want to group together this north arrow here and bring this back in here. And then we can go ahead and get this lined up to where it's supposed to go. And I'm using W to rotate. And sometimes I'll scale it up a little bit too. Okay, there we go. Now we can turn off that mark again here. And here's my utility boxes. It's in the house layer is where they show up properly. And just select that one. It's that round cable box. And I'll just put this right outside here. And then we can go ahead and put in this little pergola type thing here. We can go ahead and put this grid back on. I don't know exactly what size it is. See, 4x4 posts, so we just have to try to somewhat mimic this here. So we want it to be a pergola. So first we'll select this post right here. We want them to be square, not round. Spacing wise, we'll figure that out. I don't know if they're what they are. Thickness is 4 inches on those posts. There was two, look like little 2x8s, maybe 2x6s right there. We can turn this off so you can see this a little better. Thickness 2 inches, 2x8s, spacing at 10 feet. There we go. Getting that a little bit better there. And all we do is just make it so that way it looks that way. Let's see here. So then we'll go on to the next one up, and it looks like another set of 2x8s as well, spacing, and then we'll do kind of the same thing here. What they had was this, to where it was just one over here. oh, sorry, it's the next one. So it looks like there's just one here and then one on the closer side as well too there. So 10 feet 4 inches looks fine. 2x8s inset, you know, is fine. Inset is how much they're dropped in, as you can kind of barely see right here. That board is actually not sitting on top of, it's sitting down into that board on top of it. And then it looks like on the very top we have one more layer, spacing of 8 inches. They're thick, and then they're also 2x6s, it looks like as well too. And I don't think they're probably more like a foot apart. So now we can go in here and kind of see if this looks a little bit like, oops. Oh, okay, it's only set at 3 feet, so 3 inches, I mean, is what it was set at. So that bottom one there is probably 8 or 9 feet. Let's just look at 8 and see what that does. So yeah, that looks very close to what this is right here. They did have another layer on top, but honestly we really don't need to worry too much about that. Actually, we could go through, oh, whoops. That's how you, I guess, add a slat in there if you need to. So that's it. Now we just need to, let's change the material on our wood fence to be wood. Flooring, and I just hit all the flooring because then that'll give us, it was just a basic, the wood is actually kind of weathered a little bit, so that gives us a little better view. So she wanted an area for the dogs. Is what she wanted over here on this side, and she also wanted a decent amount of beds, or a decent amount of hardscape area. So let's give her a nice walkway off of the thing here, and really would probably square would be the cheapest to do. If she really wants it to be cheap, we wouldn't have to do near as many cuts. If we do something like this, and make sure I don't think there was anything else. So let's do something along these lines here. They probably have a minimum of let's just kind of keep it on line with what the posts are currently. So when I do this here, what it does is this line will delete from here to here, but I know I'm 6 feet away. I don't have to break out my ruler. Let's just go a little bit over. Let's try to give those dogs a little bit more space here. And we'll just have this go right up to the house there. So that, notice that line right there disappeared. Now I want to make sure, so we don't need any coping, near flush, deck height 0 inches, so it's just a flat patio is what this is. We can change this into pavers if we want to. I recommend doing all your material selections kind of near the end, because if you keep going back and forth, it wastes a lot of time. But just kind of trying to get you used to what's going on here. So we'll just keep this really simple, something along those lines right here. So next step is we're going to do I think she wanted a gravel area for the dogs. Again, 0 inches. And then I think she also wanted to add a fence right along here for the dogs as well too. So we'll kind of come through here, fence, and we're going to make sure, let's do this fence at 4 feet tall. We can do we can pretend it's like a wrought iron fence would actually be better than a wood fence, because then the dogs would be able to see out. The thickness, elevation, the spacing would be 4 inches on center, 4 feet high thickness. There we go. Let's see what this looks like. Let's add some posts in here. Posts at 4 feet tall. Size will be 4 inches in diameter. Wrought iron posts are more like 2 inches, and spacing of, let's say, 7 feet here. And you can kind of see here the posts will be right there. So that's a wrought iron fence. Let's go ahead and add the rails to it. and delete that one rail there. And then a height of 4 feet, width, thickness, spacing. Whoops. Keeps going back and forth to the... There we go. Something along those lines would give them a nice... And what we can do is put the rail, instead of it being parallel. Let's see, wait. That's fine. So we'll just keep it like that. Material wise, I'm going to strongly recommend that this be a Black Star gravel in here. So we'll go to earth and then rock, and we'll do this larger gravel in here. So that's really it. They wanted to do like a shed, storage shed and everything like that. I'll let them totally do that. Honestly, in a yard this size, I wouldn't even recommend grass because it's just going to get completely messed up. But so will beds. So really it's just kind of up to them. So we'll do a couple of small planters in here. She has a small planter right here under this window. And then we could keep it to where it's just a bed right back there. Okay, those are my 2 planters right there. Now this planter won't have any border on it as far as like stone, so we just keep it at, if you notice the elevation on the planter, so if I select this right here, the elevation is 0. What that is it's actually going to be 1 inch down below ground, is what that is, and that's kind of what you want. It gives a little character. Excuse me. But if you're doing stacked stone, you actually have to raise this up, and usually what I end up doing is going like -4. So, but don't worry about that right now. Let's just worry about this one. We can go ahead and insert our plants now. Ungroup, and then what we can do is hide all. Take a look at our plants. They're up in elevation a little bit to where they need to come down some. So you can come they were up like 3 feet is what it looked like. So usually what I do is I kind of base it off of the ground cover, where the ground cover is right where I want it to be. If my beds are raised 6 inches, then I'll get my ground cover where it's supposed to be, and then I'll go up 6 inches or whatever, depending on if I raised my beds or not. So now we can unhide all. And this terrain, this line here drives me crazy. And the only way I can get rid of it is to go to that layer there, and then it just turns off. So now we go to plants. Let's just make this really, really simple for them. The dogs could probably definitely use some shade. I like to, and for some reason on my crepe myrtle, I need to fix this. My crepe myrtle doesn't have a little symbol, and I'll show you why I like to have that little symbol there, here. But crepe myrtles are super, super strong. We could plant like 3 crepe myrtles along the back right here. It'll look great. So now I can link these together here, group them, and then I can hide them because I still need to plant underneath them. But this allows me to know where I put the trees, basically, and we'll make sure they're all in line there. We need stuff that's going to be very, very tough for these dogs, because these dogs will destroy anything that's back there. Grasses are usually okay. Sometimes if the dogs start to lay in them, then they can really mess them up. But let's just keep it really simple for now. Let's just do 3 grasses back here. And this is not the way I normally plant, but so we're just trying to get this done fast and easy. So there's that, and then we need a row of something in the front that again is very, very tough, that can take some abuse. Probably dwarf yopons. These guys are pretty tough little round balls. And they can be really, really tough. So we'll do 3 maybe there. We can do 3 down here. We could probably get away. If we do plumbago, it's going to be too crazy. It just gets to be too big. We could do some foxtail ferns maybe. We could do, I don't like having too many grasses next to each other. It just gets to be too gross looking. We could do some lantana. Lantana's pretty tough. There we go. Hopefully maybe they'll be able to see it through the window a little bit. And then let's get something here that's popping up out of the backside. We could possibly do plumbago right here on the backside of the window. That way she could possibly see it. And then we could come across again with kind of some dwarf yopon. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. The only other thing too would be a gate. So there is a gate over here. If you notice, it's just a door and it's set at 10 feet negative. That way when you go into 3D mode you can't actually see it. What it is more just to symbolize in the thing. And if you notice, you know, if there was any way in hell that we could turn that backyard into this, oh my gosh, wouldn't that be so much better and cleaner? But the chance of them, even this is going to be expensive, even though they have this already, and I'm not going to do the fence. I'm going to bid on the gravel, the patio, and the rest of the yard. But they need a full irrigation system. Probably could use drainage back there as well too. So you're still looking at like a $15,000 backyard, and there's just no way that she's going to want to spend that money. AC, all that stuff didn't really matter. I think there was one AC when I look at my video, so I'll usually watch the video. Oh, I had another video of I went out the front yard, and this is what the front looked like here. Just kind of a hodgepodge of stuff here. They really don't, she's not physically fit at all. She's got 2 grown men that live at home, but they don't do anything. I do sometimes like to make note of where that AC is at, so my guys will know that there's just no way they can get down that side of the house. So it's probably going to be over here. And yeah, see, it completely blocks. It completely blocks this. There's no way, there's no point in even putting a thing. We could go ahead and mark where the gas line, the electrical are. That way, they know that probably would not want to. So I'll go to hardscapes because that's what this slab is. And we'll slap this in right here. That's about where that is. It might actually be probably a few inches up. They did have a few gutters, so we could throw the gutters in just so that way if for some reason, you never know, they might go for everything and say, yes, let's go for it. We want to make sure that we tie these gutters into this isn't for them, this is nothing that will show them, but that way that all know to tie these gutters into the drainage system if we ever do a drain system in there. I think there was one more up here too. We could, like I said, we could go ahead and just throw in. It doesn't really matter that they're accurate. We just need to know that they're on this side, so that way the guys will know definitely don't go down this side because it's going to be an extreme pain in the butt. Because you got to go around this AC. You got to deal with utilities. We're over here, it's a straight shot all the way down. There's already a gate and everything. So that is it. I go ahead and delete all my plants. I can always reinsert them later if I want to. And then we can go ahead and just delete all this stuff as well too. That makes it so your file's a little bit smaller and cleaner. I said I like things being really, really clean. Make sure you've saved it, and we can kind of go from there.